Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever it is you are. Welcome to the second Peccadillo Pictures Sofa Club Live. And this week we have the wonderful Lucio Castro, director of End of the Century. He's joining us from upstate New York, where I think it's a very lovely morning by the look of it. How are you, Lucio?
Good, really good. It was actually an awful day, but just like a second ago, the sun started like coming through the window. So yeah, but now it's very nice. Yeah, it's beautiful out. And yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for everyone for to everyone for watching this as well.
The film has been a great success here in the UK, and I think it's got many fans around the country, and I think the UK audience is really engaged with it. So it's really great to have you. I'd like to start by asking you just a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what got you into this film business, what is your story?
Yeah, so I'm Argentine. I was born and raised in Argentina and in Buenos Aires, and I went to New York like almost 20 years ago. I came to New York. And in Argentina, I studied film, and I graduated in film, and I worked in a production company for documentaries, actually. And then after coming to New York, I went to school again. After film school in Buenos Aires, I did school again in New York, and I did design. And I've been working also as a menswear designer for all this time. And I've been doing since like 7 years ago, I started writing a long feature film to be shot in Buenos Aires. That requires like a big budget. So was being put together. I wrote another screenplay that takes place actually where I am now, which is upstate New York, close to Woodstock, New York. And then while that one also was getting to get put together and getting financed, I wrote this story to take place in Barcelona in a much more simple setup with a much more that could be done with a very like compact crew and with a very small budget. So that's how I started, and that's how this movie started happening.
Yeah, the film is very naturalistic. The performances, I think maybe that's one of the things that audiences resonate so much with, is that they are so natural. It just beautifully works together, and the actors. I mean, how did you find those?
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, the actors are both incredible actors. I found both of them through Maria La Greca, who's the casting director, who's also a friend. And one of the actors, Juan Barberini, is Argentine. He's quite well known in the independent film world in Argentina, and he's done also in theater. And my friend had done a play with him, and I sent her the script, and she was the first person that she recommended. Then she sent some other people, but Juan, what I liked about him was that he has like a confidence at first, but then once you start getting to know him, there's actually very, not insecure, there's something much more like dubitative, like there's something a little bit less confident inside, which I liked. And then Ramon Pujol, who plays Javi, the Spanish actor, he's Catalan, and he's a little bit the opposite. He feels a little bit more like insecure at first, but once you get to know him, there's a very like strong core, very secure core inside of him. And I like that duality because I feel like the movie plays like in meeting twice and or maybe 3 times, but they change the situation in which they meet, and also the situations change and the way they are changed. So I like that they both have like this whole sort of like opposite complementary qualities that I liked. And Ramon I met through Maria, who had worked in a play with an Argentine director who works in Catalonia, and he had worked with him, and also through Juan. Actually, Juan had a friend who's an actor who also knew Ramon, so he came through different people as well. And they didn't know each other when we started shooting, so all the chemistry that hopefully works on screen just happened because they're both really smart actors. They had to fake eroticism and fake desire. Now they're really good friends. We are all, but at the time we shot it, they were just acting. They were just acting chemistry.
Well, for example, when the first bit of time traveling happens, there is they play their roles very differently at that point, which is it shows their acting capabilities actually. Well, at
Yeah,
the moment
good
that
question.
we step back in time, they're playing their characters very differently.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically that's one thing that we talked about with the actors, that it's like, how these times, how they would be playing the same character differently in this 20 years apart, but also being the same person. So I gave him very, very little direction. To me, the idea of aging in the movie, or how I talked to him about it, was just the idea of innocence. When you are very young, you have this sort of like ideal, I'm going to be this. And it's like, when you're very young, you're going to be a fireman or a teacher. It's very like these big ideas. Then when you start getting older, okay, I'm going to be a writer or that. But then when you get a little bit older, you're like, yes, I'm a writer, but I do this on the side. There's more compromises that come with age. And I thought that was interesting. So it's not something bad, it's not like you're a failure. You're just much more adapted to, to survival, I guess, or the situations that life throws at you. So that's basically what I told them. And then they created the characters and the differences themselves, just by exploring the characters on their own.
And it was a very conscious decision not to change their appearance, wasn't it? That I read about this.
So yeah, that's probably my favorite part of the film. It works for me in many, many levels. The first time that we talked about that was with Juan Barberini, the main actor. We're talking about memory, and we're saying that, when we remember ourselves in the past, we never think of ourselves differently. Like if I think of myself, if I say, well, actually, we met like 10 years ago, I'm not going to try to picture you younger. I'm not going to think of myself younger. That's when we see a picture of ourselves younger. It's always very surprising because, we always put ourselves the way we look now in the past. So, and because this film is about subjective memory, it's not about the past. I'm not saying like Barcelona in 1999. I'm just saying like my memory of that time. And memories are all anachronistic, and there's always mistakes. So we like this idea of like, being the same, not changing the actors. Also, it works, of course, budget-wise and planning-wise, because it's so easy to just go back and forth. And also, which to me, it's the most interesting thing, is that it moves in the story in a much more dynamic way. The planes of like time and space, because they don't change. You never know kind of where they are. With the first switch of time, you never know that it's 20 years ago. So you cannot see the movie in the same time. And then once you understand by the situations that you're actually in a different time, then you start catching up. And I like that because I feel like it gives you this sense of like reality to me. I live in the present. I'm talking to you right now, but I have memories and I have plans for the future. So we all live in this combined, it's always combined and mixed, this times in our heads. So when film does this thing of like, the past is sepia, it's like, it's just why we don't really experience the world that way. So, it's just a convention. So I thought that it was interesting to do that for all these reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a really lovely touch personally. It was the whole idea of memory, and that, that is the memory that you're relaying on the screen at that point rather than actuality. I think that's very clever. We're going to take a question, actually. The questions are starting to arrive. And this is from Mario. What is the reason behind the two protagonists almost having their roles both attitude but also sexual role reversed in the two moments in times? In a way, it felt like life is so much different when dating rather than the part when they are a married couple with a kid.
Yeah, I think maybe he's referring to attraction and sex life. Sex is a very big part of the film, and it's definitely, there's three very definite, almost archetypal moments. The first encounter, it's a very good first sex encounter. There's many awful ones. This is a very good one. Then there's the one that maybe was the first one with the first in the past, which is much more they're both come from like being maybe straight, and it's like the first, it's just fueled by desire and attraction, and they don't even know their feelings. And the last one is the one that's more based on a quotidianity of being together for a long time, which is still, I think it's a very lovely, for me, sex scene. And actually but it's just a moment that it takes some time to get there. Once it says, should we do it? You want to do it? Let's just, it's fine. If it's like that also, I think it's okay. And it's actually sweet as well. in that scene too, I think maybe he also is referring to the reversing roles, like, like the, bottom, top, or active, passive. In the first encounter in the movie, one is the top, one is the bottom, and in that scene, it's the reverse. The Juan Ocho is actually the bottom in that scene, and a lot of people are question that. But I think that's also, in gay life, the roles, sex roles, are so weirdly defined, to me at least, that I feel like that's also like, and I knew that when I did it, it was something that was gonna, like, people would be like, wait, but that was the top, 20 years before. It's like many things can happen. There could be aliens, but if one person is top and now it's the bottom, that's like, wait a minute. So I thought that was also like a nice take of, like, it says something about why we're so set in these roles, and what does it mean to be so set in these roles as well.
Yeah, that's nice. I have a question here from Belinda. She would like you to talk about your use of books. Jules Verne's book Around the Moon. There is a wonderful parallel about travelers exploring the dark side of the moon and finding traces of earlier life, and how they occurs as travelers engage in rediscovery. Also, your reference, I can't pronounce it, to Wojanowicz, and his quote about the freedoms in translation, the disconnected and the unfamiliar. And she also would like to say thank you. It's a truly wonderful film.
Oh, thanks so much. And yeah, for sure, I see the film. To me, the film is very literary in a way. It almost, even though I'm a big cinephile, I feel like this movie comes more from books in a way. And yeah, I mean, it's the Jules Verne book that she says at the beginning. It's true that, that book is found in this Airbnb. I love the way Airbnbs and books work together. Airbnbs are these weird sort of places. They're not a hotel, but they're not a home. So they're somewhere in between, and also it's nowhere. And I feel like when I go into an Airbnb, the first thing that I do is, like, I look at books. I feel like I want to try to define who's the owner by just looking at the books. But then, like, that's like she could recognize that book, and of course that's a book that really relates to the movie and traveling and adventure, and the film is a sort of adventure as well. It's an adventure in time. And Jules Verne was a very, very amazing, one of my favorites, like, science fiction writers. So definitely there's a nod to that as well. And then the other book, which is one of my favorite books, it's by David Wojnarowicz, this really amazing artist from the HIV/AIDS epidemic in the States and in the United States. That book basically, that quote is from a book that is basically diaries from him going from, like, in America, being gay, being a prostitute, having AIDS, with being a complete outcast. And that quote refers to, like, the idea of, like, being in transition means the only way that he's free is when he's in transition, like when he's going from one place to the next. And I feel that the movie has this sort of, like, always moving, always transient. Even the end, people are like, wait, this has happened, didn't happen, is it a dream, is it not a dream? There's a sense of movement where things are never settled. Not even in the end when they're a family and they have a baby, that still it happens in a non-settled space. And I think that quote that I really like also relates to that, that moment in the film as well.
Mm-hmm. And from Mickey, I would like to say a brilliant film. I was pleasantly surprised by the beauty throughout. In regards to pre-production, do you have a method you like to employ to better capture the images on camera?
Oh, thanks so much. And honestly, it was done with a very, very small crew. I worked with a team from Barcelona who's basically a cameraman, who's also a DP and a sound person. They work together, and they shoot, like, documentaries for The Guardian. They go to, like, Iceland to shoot this guy who lives by the river. I wanted someone who was able to capture light, work with camera, be very agile, So that's how I found Bernat Mestres, who's the amazing DP. And yeah, I mean, in pre-production, what I did was I took a lot of photographs. I like taking photographs. I did almost like I told a story, which I do always too. I told a story by the photographs without any characters, without any dialogue, the movie has a lot of dialogue. But what I do in terms of, like, pre-production, I just put all the photos that I took on my phone, and I just lay them down, and I see it visually. That sort of also tells a story, the story that's almost like the story that happens underneath the story, almost like a background story. And I lay them out, I lay them out in terms of like texture on the walls, lighting, grass, greenery, blue, beach, and I just try to think that there's some sort of balance, some cadence, some rhythm. If it goes with the story, the story will layer on top. That's usually how I do it. And this movie also, because we didn't create any locations, we didn't create any sets. I was just using the natural sets and the natural beauty of Barcelona. So it's already made, So I just need to go take pictures and select, basically. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. From Amanda. She would like to know, is the film autobiographical?
For sure, what all the characters think and say are things that I think and that I've said. But that's not me. Actually, I have never been to Barcelona before this film. I've just been there once, so I didn't know the city at all. That never happened to me either. But of course, there are some things in the dialogue. There are things in the situation that are very close to my life, And I think that there's some sort of specificity that connects with me, and also some sort of like generalization. For example, about the city, Barcelona. I picked that city because I didn't know it at all. I was there once, like 15 years ago. And I feel like if I wrote it with that idea of a city in mind, it's like saying, for example, I want to make a movie about Alaska. I've never been to Alaska, so I'm just going to write it about what I feel Alaska is all about, So in a way that allows me to invent the city. If I would have made a movie about in New York or Buenos Aires, those cities that I know a lot, I'll be much more constrained by all the things that I know about the city. Or Barcelona is a city that I just could make up. Of course, I didn't make it up because it exists, but I just wrote it the way I thought a movie could be written. I think that's why the movie starts with this character entering in a train station, through the train to the city, which is also like a weird device. It's almost a little bit old-fashioned. We don't arrive in cities anymore. A lot of people do, but in general, you land by plane. You take an Uber. It's a little bit less romantic. And this film has some sort of this idea. There's almost this literary idea of a character arriving in a city by train. So yeah, I think the film has a lot of autobiographical references, and nothing really happened to me in that way at all. Yeah.
And Alejandro would like to know, will the film be available to watch online in platforms in Argentina? I don't know if that's something you can possibly answer, actually.
Yeah, it was actually doing a theatrical run just before all this happened. So now the distributor is now working with that to see how it will affect the release on online in Argentina.
Oh, great! So that could be quite soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
And from John, Barcelona was almost the third main character. Was that a conscious decision, and why Barcelona? And in brackets, can you reveal any personal reason? I think you've done a bit of that already, but.
Yeah. So basically, it's just what I said. That it's. One thing that I didn't say before is that I had a short that it was in Cannes, so I was very close in that area when I went, but I didn't know the city at all. I was just there. I just went there to shoot the movie. I landed like 2 weeks before we started shooting, and I just did it. I just wrote it because of this idea that I have. I've seen many films of Barcelona. I think I know some things. But then, of course, when I wanted the city to have this mix of beach and city, I wanted to be like a vernacular city, a city about the summer, but also a city that had a lot of culture by itself in the winter. I love the old and new, the scale. The story works too to me because it's a city where it's easy that they can meet each other again by chance. It's a city. It's a quite small city that you can just walk around or use your bike, and you can go around very, very fast. And it's also a city that feels to me both intimate and transient. There's so much tourism, but also I always find myself by myself or in a very nice intimate scene. I think because of all the small streets in the old quarter, it allows for that sort of immediate connection to the city, but also it's very a lot of people go through it too as well. So I think it had all these dualities that I really liked. But again, I didn't know the city at all when I wrote it. So it was really written this idea, this imaginary, preconception that I had of Barcelona.
How easy was it to find those specific locations? Because if you didn't have the ideas of where you wanted to do it at the very beginning, what was that process? How did you find them?
Yeah, it was Google Earth. Google Earth. Like a lot of Google, I was just looking on websites, areas, distances. There's actually a scene that we didn't shoot in there because we didn't have time, but I also found the last payphone. How do you call it? The ones on the street, like a payphone. Yeah. Like in the UK, there's beautiful, those red ones that I always love, from the movies. But I found the last standing working payphone in Barcelona, which is it's actually in a kind of like a far neighborhood, so I didn't end up shooting there. But yeah, it's like I think and even like they go to this museum of perfume, that when they go together in the past, they go to this place where they look at all perfumes. That's also a very weird museum that's behind a perfume store. So if you're from there, you don't see it, you don't know it as well. So I think because I kind of like put it together with this weird method of not being a native, I think it has also this sort of like, some people from Barcelona say this is exactly Barcelona that I know. It's like, but also some people say it's like a weird non-descript. It's very, because I don't show like the Ramblas, I don't show like the Gaudi buildings, which is of course the #1 thing in Barcelona. I stay away from that. So it's someone said that in the bathroom of a screenings, I heard someone say this takes place in Dubai, right? So some people thought it was Dubai, even though it's very clear. But I guess it's because of the W Hotel on the beach, the very modern, long, I guess that maybe confused people. But yeah, I think the city has this nice, very specific, but also sort of like transient, schematic or generic city, I don't know.
And was it easy to shoot in the museums?
So easy. That's another reason why I did it there. Once I started seeing how easy it was, it's a city that has beautiful sunlight, they're completely open to people shooting there. In New York, it's so difficult. You have to get permits to get like to do like a very short scene on the streets. In Barcelona, it's so easy to get a permit right away. We had permits for all the streets, markets. We were alone in museums with amazing artwork. It's really valuable. Just us. The city completely opened up to this like super small movie, So they were really, really fantastically welcoming and supportive of the film, which we loved.
And has the film screened in Barcelona?
Yeah, it did. It opened. It actually did really well in cinemas. It was in 5 cinemas, but it opened in this beautiful festival that's in November. The November 15th, it was the opening. And yeah, it was in this amazing museum there too as well. So yeah, I was there, sure. Yeah, the CCTV. It's like this great, museum center, like modern contemporary exposition. Great place. Yeah.
And how was the reception?
It was really good. It was great. It was really good. It was really moving. The DP that shot the movie had not seen it until in a big screen until then, so it was the first time that he was there. Also, the colorist was there. The parents of all the friends of Ramon, the actor, who of course Ramon came to the opening in New York. He came to Argentina, but all his friends and family was there too. So it was really great for them to see it. And people really thought this is exactly how Barcelona is in reality. So some people were confused, like any screening, but people really liked it, I think. Yeah.
I'm really pleased. I think that would have been quite an event to be at, actually.
Yeah.
I have a question from Farhan. Is Sonia really a friend or a random singer that sings by the fountain?
Sonia is, I guess he means the actress and the character, or that specific scene.
I think it's reference to the character, whether she was really a friend or whether she was just a singer who they passed by.
Well, I mean, in the film, Sonia is it's like it's the ex-girlfriend of Javi. So in the reality of the film, Sonia is now she's still a singer, and like he says, she sings on the streets to make extra money, but she practices on the street, but she also sings at home. She's an opera singer, and that's really well, Of course, in another reality of the film, she died a few years ago in an accident in New York. But yeah, it has those possibilities of the film. But it's that character that we see again.
And the actress, is she a singer?
Yes, Mia Maestro is a really, really good friend. Actually, one of my next movies with her. She's a great friend, and we came to New York to the States together. She was in a movie by Carlos Saura called Tango in 1998, and it was nominated for a foreign Oscar for a foreign film. So she came to the States and went to LA, and she's done a great career. And before in Buenos Aires, we were friends when we were kids. She was a singer, and she became like a really, really great singer. But then she was an actress. So now she's an actress and she sings too. But nobody makes her sing anymore. But I just love her voice. I think she has a really beautiful voice. So that's why I added that quality to the character, just because it was her.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
For Mario, are you working on a future movie at the moment?
Yes, I am actually. This whole disaster, it's awful. One of the few good things that happen is that actually I'm able to, there's in film, there's a lot of development. It's because films cannot be shot right now. So there's a lot of work in development. So yes, there's a movie that I wrote starring Mia that I'm working on, that I just finished writing in this time, like 2 months ago. And there's another project too, another one in Argentina too. So yeah, there's things that hopefully will happen when this ends.
Do you go back to Argentina very often?
I go once a year. I go once a year. Around 1 month or twice. Yeah.
And was it an easy change, leaving Argentina and going to the States?
Yes, I would have said. Yeah, I would say it was an easy. It wasn't a hard. I really wanted to live in New York. I really loved New York then. I had come when I was very young, and it was always like the city that I wanted to live when I was very young. I realized later that the New York that I love was like the Scorsese, like After Hours New York.
Oh yes.
That doesn't exist anymore. Like the Nick Nolte, that short in Stories of New York story. I mean, it's not the Soho now. That's like a big shopping center. It's a different New York. The one like the 70s New York is the New York that I loved. I still like the city. It's an amazing city. But of course, my adoration with the city has a lot more. Because once you live somewhere, it becomes a little bit more complicated, I guess. Like real estate being extremely expensive. The city has become just for bankers or multimillionaires. And that, of course, is changing the city, the fact of the city. But it's also a city that it's amazingly cultural. There's amazing things going on all the time. There's great film festivals. There's great theaters that I go to all the time. There's amazing museums. So there's so much culture too still, that it's hard not to love because of that.
Do you feel all of that now? At this current time with the coronavirus, do you still get that vibe from the city when you're there?
Well, now I'm in the countryside. I'm upstate in the mountains. But actually, I'm going tonight to Brooklyn. Back to my house is in Brooklyn. It's funny because it's nothing is enforced in the States, unlike Italy or Spain or Argentina, where you have to stay inside. People are outside. Some people are wearing masks. Some people are not. So it's like a strange, and at the same time, people are dying and getting sick every day by numbers. So it's a strange moment right now. It's also a city that it's very friendly. I think it's a very friendly city. I think that people are they look out for one another, and I think people are come from all different places. So I feel like it's a city of like outcasts in a way, and I like that about the city. And I think it still feels that way, and I like that. And it's also, it's a city that has this huge juxtaposition between really huge finance, the world of finance, the world of money, but also this this amazing history with the East Village and the 70s and the generation before. It's such a great melting pot that it's still it's still a very exciting city. It's never a quiet. There's a city that's always requires you to have some sort of be either alert or with some sort of ambition of yourself. When I go to if I go to Berlin, it's no one cannot. People are maybe doing something next week, and maybe they're doing. New York is much more. People are on. And that energy I like because I have it as well. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I think I'm ambitious as well. I'm 44 years old, and I've come to understand it. But I also love getting away from that, of course, and I love being up here in the mountains, and I love going to Europe, and I love going to cities where it's much more low key and not so demanding for people to to make things and do things all the time.
Yeah, and you must have traveled extremely well with the film.
Yeah,
all over the world.
Yeah. Last year I spent the whole year in a plane going everywhere. Yeah, which is great. Yeah.
I have a question from Amelia, or a statement. The soundtrack is a delight. I'm sure I'm not the only person who now has Flock of Seagulls stuck in my head. That whole dancing scene is a joy to watch.
And thanks so much. And sorry?
Do I remember correctly that dancing scene? There was one take, wasn't it? Was it?
Yeah, one take. Yeah, we did 33 takes. 33 takes. But that one is the one we ended up with. Yeah, that song. A lot of people they really like the song, and it's funny because it wasn't the first choice for that song, that scene. It was Annie Lennox tracks, but Annie never gave us the rights. So, but now looking back on it, I think this is a much better track for that scene. Yeah, and that scene was, it was fun to make, but it was also really, really demanding because it was one take. The apartment, we had all the windows open, so it didn't have the camera reflecting on the glass. So we're following, the camera guy was following them. Focus, of course, is an issue because you had to keep at the same distance. They were all absolutely drunk by the end of the night because they were really drinking the bottle of tequila. And it had to have all this gradual, thing from these two drunk kids, straight kids go into this attraction. They had to fake that gradual, movement. So, and then end up in this very passionate kiss, so it was very exhausting for them as well. It was a very physical scene for the actors as well because they had to dance and then end up kissing and then go into the couch and really going for it. So 32 times was a lot. The next day there was. Which take? I think it was 29. I think we did a few extra after that, but it was 20. No, actually, you know what? I think it was the last that we did full. Then the other 4 or 5 we did just segments. Because at first I thought that the whole film is very still. There's only two handheld moments, which is on the ocean when they're in the water on the beach, and when they dance. And at first I wanted that to be still, and we did a few shots with that, but it didn't work. It didn't the camera didn't really. I wanted to be very close to them, and I feel like it was too static. So then it's when we decided to just go for it and then just follow them, handheld. And yeah, and I think it works. I personally think it works because I think even though of course they're actors acting, and that's just what it is, you still feel that there's a real sense of real time of them becoming that in the end, And I feel like the attraction is very in real time, and I feel that's moving to me to watch.
Yeah, there's some scenes where it is just one take, and I think that just works so wonderfully. But also the actors to be able to memorize everything and carry those scenes through, that must have been quite something to direct, actually.
Yeah. They, the two actors are very different. One of them, the Catalan actor Ramon Pujol, he's a really, really well-trained actor. So he, of course, had it was 10 pages of the script of dialogue. He had every line underlined. He knew every line perfectly well. He asked me for commas, and like he was completely detail oriented. And Juan was like, so what was the scene again that we're shooting now in 10 minutes? So and he would read it twice, 10 pages, and he would just know them, incredible, really a level that was amazing. Very, very different ways of working, but very, very good, both of them. And yes, I mean that was also a very difficult scene. We couldn't do 32 times because it was very long. It was 10 minutes. Also because of the light, because I wanted to capture that sunset time in Barcelona, on the sky, and I wanted to have the sky changing. That's why we couldn't do cut back and forth, because then the sky wouldn't match. So yeah, we did it in one take. That definitely was the last take, because after that, all the lights turned on and the light was really awful. So that was the last take that we did. And yeah, it was just one of those moments in film where you think you're never gonna get it, and suddenly there's a good take, and then that's all it takes. Just one. That's I think some directors said that you just need to do it well once. That's the nice thing about it. It's not like in theater where you do it well every night. Yeah. Just do it well once.
And so there was no ad-libbing at all in the film. Everything was as script.
Yes, everything. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Everything.
And a question again from Mario. This film has a certain melancholy. Was that intentional? The reasons why I felt that were one, the two protagonists have an unfulfilled relationship, and two, Sonia who passes away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of elements in the film that bring that tone. It's kind of poignant or melancholy tone. I think to me, what always gives us a sort of this sort of sense of I guess melancholy sense is this idea of time. When I fast forward in time, where I can go back in time, a long time, that gives you a sort of vertigo, time vertigo, and that to me is what gives people this idea, because I feel like it confronts you with the idea that a small choice, something you didn't do barely, one night that you didn't stay for another drink at a club, or one day you didn't call someone, or or you didn't cross on the street, your life would have been so different. And to me, that is so cruel, heartbreaking, and also beautiful. It's life. We think we're in control of our lives, but we make these vain decisions. I'm going to go to the supermarket now to buy yogurt, and because I was there now, I see someone that I haven't seen in 20. We think we're in control, but everything happens for we know very little of what we can control. I think that gives us a sense of despair, but also beauty, because then when it does happen, it's amazing. It's what are the chances that this happens? Mm. And I think that the film does. It definitely plays in this area of of possibilities. That I think that's moving to to me it is.
Because several people always ask about the interpretation of the film, or how they should interpret it. I mean, do you have any advice for those viewers who would like a little bit of help?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think it's great that I'm happy that they want to interpret. That means that they saw the whole film, which is great. And I feel like there's many ways to interpret a movie. And I feel like when the writer, the author, the artist says their way, their initial intention, when they state their truth, I feel like it becomes the only truth, and all the other interpretations are not valid because they're not what he wanted. And to me, that's always such a pity, because if I would have wanted to have said something, I'll just say it, But I made the film because I was aware that film will have different things, interpretations, different people, and different minds. And to me, that's the beauty of making films, I generally dislike films where everything is overstated and everything's given out very clearly. because I think that it leaves me away as a viewer. I have no room to be in the film, to complete the film as a viewer. I like when a film gives me room to complete the film because I feel a much more active participant in the film. So yeah, I feel like I like those kinds of movies where I'm given some work because I feel like I'm respected as a viewer, as a spectator. So I want to be a director that also gives room for viewers to to work, think, dream, but complete the film in a way.
I think that's one of the reasons it's been so successful, because people really talk about it and have real conversations about it, which I think is a wonderful achievement. And I think one of the reasons that we at Peccadillo love the film so much. So I'd just like to say thank you so much, Lucio, for giving us this beautiful first film of yours. And we're really looking forward to what comes next.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for the support, and thank you to all the viewers, the UK viewers and everywhere else too. Yeah, thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us, because it's great to have you here this week. And I wish you all the best this Easter weekend when you head to New York. And just leaves me to say thank you for the people who are watching, but also to say about next week, because next week Levin Atkin, the director of And Then We Danced, will be joining the Peccadillo Sofa Club. But the host next week will be Alex Davidson from the Barbican. He's going to be asking the questions. So please join us then, and we'll leave you with the trailer for And Then We Danced. Thank you.
იცი სად მოხვედი? მე მოიხსენი ეგ საყურე.
ნუ ჩემზე უკეთესად საყურს, ხო?
სამი, 4, ბავშვი. ავარან სამში ჭირდებათ ერთი მოცეკვავე.
გასავად. შესაჩერები როდის იქნება?
ძალიან მალე.
არა, სწორად აკეთე.
ქართული ცეკვა ვაშკაცობაზეა დაფუძნებული. სისუსტის ადგილი არა.